Before Rome ruled the seas, before empires clashed for domination of the Mediterranean, there was Carthage. Born from the ashes of the Phoenician city of Tyre, Carthage would grow to become one of the greatest maritime powers in history. This is the story of how a small, trading outpost became the jewel of the Western Mediterranean. The Phoenicians, a seafaring people from modern-day Lebanon, were master traders and navigators. They built their wealth on purple dye, fine textiles, glass, and metalwork. Their ships sailed farther than anyone before, to Cyprus, North Africa, Sicily, even Spain. But as Assyrian power rose in the east, many Phoenicians looked west for safety and opportunity. Legend tells of Queen Dido, also known as Elissa, who fled Tyre and founded a new city around 814 BCE on the shores of modern Tunisia. Carthage, Kart Hadasht, meaning new city. Its location was perfect, a natural harbor, fertile lands, and access to both the east and west Mediterranean trade routes. What began as a humble settlement would soon thrive into a great metropolis. Carthage grew rapidly, fueled by trade. Silver from Spain, grain from Africa, timber from Sardinia, everything passed through its harbors. The Carthaginians didn't conquer by force, they conquered by commerce. Their ships were fast, their sailors unmatched, and their merchants everywhere. Carthage was a marvel of engineering, 2 massive harbors, one for trade, another for warships, connected by a hidden channel. The city was protected by tall walls and filled with temples dedicated to Baal Hammon and Tanit. Its people were diverse: Phoenicians, Berbers, Libyans, Greeks, and others, all drawn by opportunity. By the 6th century BCE, Carthage controlled parts of North Africa, Sardinia, Corsica, and southern Spain. Its fleets ruled the western seas, but power always invites rivalry. In Sicily, Greek colonies watched Carthage's rise with suspicion, and across the sea, a new republic was quietly growing: Rome. Carthage stood as a bridge between East and West, between ancient Phoenicia and the future of empire. It was a civilization of merchants, engineers, and sailors, destined for greatness and tragedy. In the next episode, Carthage becomes the master of the Mediterranean, building an empire that will soon challenge Rome itself. By the 6th century BCE, Carthage was no longer a colony. It was an empire, a maritime superpower that ruled the western Mediterranean. Its ships sailed farther than any rival, its merchants grew rich, and its admirals commanded respect and fear. Carthage was now the master of the sea. Trade was the heart of Carthage's power. From the gold of West Africa to the silver mines of Iberia, everything flowed into Carthage's ports. The city became the crossroads of continents: Africa, Europe, and the Near East. In return, Carthage exported fine textiles, pottery, and its most valuable skill, shipbuilding. Carthaginian ships were legendary, fast, sleek, and built for both commerce and war. They developed new ship designs: the quinquereme, a massive warship that became the terror of the seas. While other kingdoms were ruled by kings, Carthage was led by a council of elders and 2 elected magistrates called suffetes. It was one of the most advanced political systems of the ancient world, efficient, stable, and deeply tied to commerce. At its core stood powerful families, merchant dynasties whose wealth controlled politics and fleets. The most famous among them would soon give birth to a name feared for generations: Barca. As Carthage expanded, it came into conflict with the Greek colonies of Sicily. The Greeks, led by cities like Syracuse, saw Carthage's trade dominance as a threat. A series of wars erupted, the Sicilian Wars, lasting for centuries. Although Carthage suffered defeats, its fleets always returned, stronger than before. Each war sharpened its military skill and its hunger for control. Carthage's greatest strength was its navy, tens of thousands of sailors trained to perfection. But unlike Rome, Carthage didn't rely on citizen armies. Its land forces were mostly mercenaries, from Numidia, Iberia, Gaul, and Greece. These warriors fought for gold, not loyalty. It was both a strength and a fatal weakness to come. Carthage wasn't only a power of war, it was a center of culture. Its religion honored gods like Baal Hammon and Tanit, protectors of the city. Its artisans crafted beautiful jewelry and ceramics, blending Phoenician and African styles. And through its trade, Carthage spread its influence, its language, its ideas, across the Mediterranean. But power never goes unchallenged. Across the sea, the young Republic of Rome was expanding. It had no empire, no great fleet, but it had ambition. The collision between Carthage and Rome was inevitable. In the next episode, the first clash begins. 2 powers, 1 sea. Carthage and Rome meet in the First Punic War. For centuries, Carthage ruled the waves, its fleets dominated trade, its harbors overflowed with wealth, but across the sea, a new power had risen, the Roman Republic. What began as a conflict over Sicily would become one of the longest and bloodiest wars of the ancient world. This is the story of the First Punic War. In 264 BCE, tension erupted on the island of Sicily. Two small cities, Messana and Syracuse, drew Rome and Carthage into conflict. Rome, new to the sea, had never fought a naval war. Carthage, the master of the Mediterranean, believed victory was certain. Neither side knew the struggle would last more than 20 years. At first, Rome was helpless at sea, but when they captured a Carthaginian quinquereme, everything changed. They reverse-engineered it, building hundreds of warships in just months. To compensate for their inexperience, Rome invented the corvus, a boarding bridge that turned naval battles into land battles. The Romans adapted fast and learned faster. In 260 BCE, the first major sea battle took place at Mylae. To everyone's shock, Rome won. Then, in 256 BCE, came the Battle of Ecnomus, one of the largest naval battles in history, involving more than 600 ships. Rome's new navy crushed Carthage's fleet. The unthinkable had happened, the master of the sea had been defeated. After their victory, Rome invaded North Africa itself. The general Marcus Regulus led the campaign, winning early battles, but Carthage struck back, hiring Greek mercenary general Xanthippus, who used elephants and superior tactics to annihilate the Roman army. Regulus was captured and Rome retreated in humiliation. Still, neither side would surrender. The war dragged on, year after year. Hundreds of thousands of men died. Carthage rebuilt its fleets again and again, only for storms and Roman attacks to destroy them. Both sides were broke, exhausted, and desperate. Then came 241 BCE, the final battle at the Aegates Islands. Rome's reorganized fleet crushed Carthage once more. The war was finally over. Carthage surrendered Sicily, its navy weakened and its treasury drained. For the first time, the sea belonged to Rome, but Carthage survived, wounded, angry, and determined to rise again. From this defeat would emerge a name that would terrify Rome for generations: Hannibal. In the next episode, a new leader rises, a genius commander will lead Carthage's revenge. Carthage was broken, defeated by Rome, stripped of Sicily, and burdened with debt. But among the ruins of humiliation, a new generation was growing, one that would never forgive. And from that generation came a man whose name would echo through history: Hannibal Barca. Hannibal was born in 247 BCE, during the last years of the First Punic War. His father, Hamilcar Barca, was a brilliant general who refused to accept defeat. After the war, Hamilcar led his army to Spain, far from Roman influence, to rebuild Carthage's power. There, the Barcid family created a new empire of silver, soldiers, and revenge. Legend says that before leaving for Spain, Hamilcar took young Hannibal to the altar of Baal Hammon and made him swear an oath: never to be a friend of Rome. That oath would define his entire life. Under Hamilcar, then his son-in-law Hasdrubal, Carthage built a new base in Iberia, rich in silver and manpower. It became the foundation of Carthage's future wars. When Hasdrubal was assassinated, command passed to a young Hannibal, only 26 years old. The soldiers adored him. They said he was the first to enter battle and the last to leave it. In 219 BCE, Hannibal attacked the city of Saguntum, a Roman ally in Spain. Rome demanded he withdraw. Hannibal refused. The Roman Senate declared war, and the Second Punic War began. But Hannibal would not wait for Rome to come to him. He would bring the war to Italy itself. Hannibal led one of the most daring campaigns in military history. With 90,000 soldiers, 12,000 cavalry, and 37 war elephants, he crossed the Pyrenees, the Rhone, and finally, the Alps. Blizzards, avalanches, ambushes, half his army perished. But when he descended into Italy, he had done the impossible. Rome expected invasion by sea, not through the roof of the world. In the years that followed, Hannibal crushed Rome's legions again and again. At the Trebia River, he outflanked them. At Lake Trasimene, he ambushed and destroyed an entire army. And at Cannae, he achieved one of the greatest tactical victories in history, surrounding and annihilating over 50,000 Romans in a single day. The Republic trembled. After Cannae, Rome lay open, but Hannibal lacked siege weapons, reinforcements, and support from Carthage's leaders. He waited too long. Rome began to recover, the tide of history was shifting. Hannibal had shaken Rome, but he had not broken it. The war was far from over. In the next episode, Rome strikes back, bringing the fight to Spain and Africa.
Hannibal had brought Rome to its knees. For years, his victories terrified the Republic, but Rome refused to die. From the ashes of defeat, new leaders rose, men who would learn from Hannibal and turn his own tactics against him. The hunter was about to become the hunted. Rome's strength was not its armies, it was its endurance. Even after losing tens of thousands at Cannae, the Senate forbade surrender. They raised new legions, trained new generals, and rebuilt their fleets. While Hannibal waited for reinforcements that never came, Rome prepared for total war. In this desperate time, a young Roman commander began to rise, Publius Cornelius Scipio. At just 25, Scipio took command of Roman forces in Spain. He studied Hannibal's tactics carefully, learning speed, deception, and adaptability. But unlike Hannibal, Scipio had the full support of Rome. Soon, he would become the Republic's deadliest weapon. Spain, the heart of Carthage's new empire, became the next battlefield. Scipio launched a lightning campaign, seizing New Carthage, Carthage's main base in Iberia. He freed hostages, treated captives with mercy, and won the loyalty of Iberian tribes. In just a few years, he destroyed Carthage's power in Spain. The Barcid family's empire, built by Hamilcar, expanded by Hannibal, was gone. Meanwhile in Italy, Hannibal's glory was fading. His army, far from home, was starving. Carthage's leaders refused to send reinforcements. His allies deserted one by one. The brilliant general who once crushed Rome now fought only to survive. Still undefeated in open battle, but trapped, far from victory. In 204 BCE, Scipio carried the war to Africa itself. His strategy was bold: force Carthage to recall Hannibal home. He allied with Numidian cavalry, led by Massinissa, and began devastating Carthage's lands. Carthage had no choice. After 16 years in Italy, Hannibal was finally ordered to return. Two of the greatest generals in history now stood on opposite sides. Before battle, Hannibal and Scipio met in peace, each recognizing the other's genius. But diplomacy failed. In 202 BCE, their armies clashed at Zama. Scipio's cavalry outmaneuvered Hannibal's elephants and surrounded his lines, just as Hannibal once did at Cannae. The student had surpassed the master. Carthage was defeated. Its empire lost, its fleets surrendered, and its treasury emptied. Rome named Scipio Africanus, the conqueror of Africa. Hannibal escaped, but his dream was over. Hannibal had brought Rome to its knees. The Barcid family's empire, built by Hamilcar, expanded by Hannibal, was gone. In this desperate time, a young Roman commander began to rise, Publius Cornelius Scipio. He allied with Numidian cavalry, led by Massinissa, and began devastating Carthage's lands. Two of the greatest generals in history now stood on opposite sides. Before battle, Hannibal and Scipio met in peace, each recognizing the other's genius. After 16 years in Italy, Hannibal was finally ordered to return. In 202 BCE, their armies clashed at Zama.
The Battle of Zama was over. Hannibal, the man who had terrified Rome for nearly 2 decades, was defeated. Carthage surrendered, its empire shattered, its fleet destroyed, and its spirit broken. But Hannibal was not dead. His story was far from over. When Hannibal returned to Carthage, he was no longer the unstoppable conqueror. The people hailed him as a hero, yet the Senate viewed him with suspicion. They feared that his fame and ambition would bring Rome's wrath again. But Hannibal wanted only one thing now: to save his homeland from decay. Appointed as suffet, Carthage's chief magistrate, Hannibal began to reform everything. He cut corruption, restructured taxes, and restored the city's finances. For the first time in years, Carthage began to recover. Yet prosperity made Rome uneasy. They could not allow the shadow of Hannibal to rise again. Rome demanded Hannibal's surrender. They claimed he was plotting another war. The Carthaginian elders, terrified of provoking Rome, agreed. But Hannibal knew what awaited him if he stayed. Under the cover of night, he fled his city, leaving his homeland forever. Exiled and hunted, Hannibal journeyed east. He served as a military advisor to kings, first in Tyre, then under Antiochus III of Syria. He taught them Rome's tactics, built fleets, and planned new wars. But Rome's reach was vast. Wherever he went, their envoys followed, demanding his surrender. Years passed. Hannibal had no army, no city, no allies. Only his reputation remained, and even that had become his curse. Finally, in Bithynia, the Roman Senate found him again. The local king, frightened of Rome's power, agreed to hand him over. Knowing there was no escape, Hannibal chose his own fate. He took the poison he always carried, a final act of defiance. His last words were said to be, "Let us free Rome from the fear of an old man." He died at around 65, far from the land he fought to save. Centuries passed, but Hannibal's name endured. Romans studied his battles, generals admired his genius, even his enemies called him one of the greatest commanders who ever lived. Hannibal Barca, the man who defied an empire, and whose shadow still falls across history.
A century after Hannibal's death, Carthage rose again, not in power, but in pride. The city had rebuilt itself. Its harbors were busy once more, its people wealthy. But to Rome, Carthage was a ghost that refused to die, and Rome feared ghosts. Rome's politicians, led by Cato the Elder, demanded action. At the end of every speech, Cato repeated the same words.
Carthago delenda rest.
To the Romans, peace with Carthage was not enough. Only ashes could guarantee their safety. When Numidia, Rome's ally, attacked Carthaginian lands, Carthage begged Rome for help, but Rome refused. Forced to defend itself, Carthage broke its treaty by raising an army. That single act gave Rome the excuse it wanted. War was declared. In 149 BCE, the Roman legions landed in Africa. They demanded Carthage surrender all weapons, and then the city itself. When Carthage realized Rome intended to erase it completely, its people made a final choice: to fight to the death. For 3 years, the city resisted siege. Every street became a fortress, every home a battlefield. In 146 BCE, under Scipio Aemilianus, Rome launched its final assault. The fighting lasted for days. Carthaginian soldiers, women, even children, all fought. House by house, the Romans advanced, until the city was drowned in fire and blood. The survivors gathered in the Temple of Eshmun, the city's last refuge. When the Romans broke through, the Carthaginians set the temple ablaze, choosing death over slavery. Flames rose high above the harbor, the final light of a civilization that had once ruled the seas. As Carthage burned, the young general Scipio wept.
He whispered a line from Homer's Iliad. "A day will come when sacred Troy shall perish."
He knew that every empire, even Rome itself, would one day share Carthage's fate. Rome sowed salt into the soil so nothing would grow again. Carthage was erased from maps, but not from memory. For centuries, its ruins whispered a warning. Power is never eternal. Pride can destroy even the greatest of cities. The flames of Carthage died long ago, but beneath the dust and stone, echoes still remain, of merchants and warriors, explorers and dreamers. Carthage may have fallen, Yet its spirit never truly disappeared. After its destruction, Rome rebuilt Carthage. Within a century, it became one of the largest cities in the Roman Empire, a hub of trade, culture, and learning. Ironically, the city Rome had erased became one of Rome's brightest jewels. Carthaginians were masters of the sea. Their ship designs, trade networks, and navigation methods influenced generations after them. Even Roman merchants learned from their routes, sailing the same waters once ruled by Punic sails. And then there was Hannibal. Though defeated, his genius changed the art of war forever. Military leaders from Napoleon to Patton studied his campaigns. Rome destroyed his city, but honored his brilliance. His name became immortal. Carthage's culture blended Phoenician traditions with North African roots. It survived through language, art, and religion. In Roman times, it became a center of early Christianity, home to thinkers like St. Augustine, who shaped Western philosophy for centuries. Today, Carthage stands quietly by the sea, near modern Tunis. Tourists walk through its ruins, unaware they stand on layers of history. Here, empires clashed, civilizations blended, and humanity learned how power and pride can both build and destroy. Carthage reminds us that history repeats, that trade, rivalry, and ambition still shape our world. Its story is not just about war, but about endurance, reinvention, and the will to survive. Empires rise, empires fall, but the legacy of Carthage endures in our cities, our ideas, and our memories. Carthage may have burned, but its light still shines across time.
This forgotten empire was more powerful than Rome, Egypt, and Greece combined. And that's exactly the kind of untold story you'll discover on this channel. From ancient empires to forgotten civilizations, we bring you the stories that shaped our world but never made it into your history books. Legendary battles, lost cities, and the people who changed everything. If you love history that goes beyond the surface, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Because history isn't just the past, it's who we are.